on this one, I'm going to show you how to do the Carrera marble. Okay, Carrera marble is slightly different to the vert de mer in the way that the lines don't really cross. They all go in one direction. So as long as you can keep your lines in the same direction, make sure you soften well and then do some pronounced veins, you should get quite a good effect. So I'll show you how to do it. First, you want to gild the surface. Just putting this on with a lid-free rag. Remember, it's linseed oil, so it must be laid flat out on some paper when you finish with it. So that's all I'm using this rag for, is to apply the gild. And then, as soon as I've used it, don't even think about going away. As soon as you've used it, flat out on paper. Once it's scrunched up, it'll start creating a load of fumes in the centre, and then it'll spontaneously combust. So now I'm going to get my old bit of sponge, and I'm also going to dip that into the gild. I'm just going to put some gild on the surface here. And these are the 4 colours I'm going to use. I'm going to use white, so this is an oil colouring, because your marble is all oil based. So a little. These are my 4 colourants that I'm going to use for my background effect, okay? And I'm going to go in stripes. So I've just put a bit of white on there. Now I'm going to put a bit of black. And we're trying to create like a mid-grey. I'm going to go with the black. I'm going to go the tiniest bit of yellow ochre. Yellow ochre is sometimes in Carrera marble. There's a little bit of yellow here and there, so I'm just going to put a little bit of that. And then a very slight amount of this blue. Like that. Okay. And now I can't put them on as they are because they're just pigment. There's no linseed oil dry as we experiment, so they're not going to flow. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up this bit of gilt on the board there. Okay. And then I'm just going to mix these slightly. So black and yellow, sorry, black and white. A bit more white, a bit more gilt. If you find it feels like pigment, a bit more gilt on. Okay. Very little bit of white and blue. So you can see I've got a mixture of white, black, a tiny bit of yellow and blue. So what I'm going to do here, because Carrera marble goes in one direction, I'm just going to really lightly, I'm hardly touching the surface. I'm just doing this to make some background cloud. Now if it ain't gilty enough, it will spread. Okay, so that's enough background. You still see plenty of white. Now I'm going to get my pure bristle softener, and I'm going to soften it all the same way. Now you soften this as much as you want. Every bit of marble is different. Some will be quite pronounced, some will be really subtle. Just be careful. I always do the bottom one. You will be doing this one, so you won't be touching the floor. But just be aware that you need to make sure that you're not picking up bits when you're doing your effect. So I'm just using the tip of the brush, like I say, all the time like that. What I don't have, afraid, is like when I did the vert de mer, I was then wiping the softener. And that's taken some of the pigment off. You see how light it's going now to what I put on in the first place. So these are just your background, it's just your background clouding effect. Some little bits. I do feel that's a little bit not blending, so I'm just going to put a little bit of gilt on there. won't blend if you haven't got enough gilt on, so you can always add a little bit of gilt, but only very slightly, whilst you'll make it on run. Look back, see if you're happy with it. Now what I do sometimes, because I've picked up a little bit of colouring on my pure bristle brush, I'm just going to flip that sort of in the areas that I haven't touched, and then very, very slightly, hardly anything, will come out the brush and just colour those other bits of white with a very, very subtle grey. So if you're happy with that, once you've softened, now you see I'm going in the same direction all the time. That can basically be left. You don't need to put veins in that. That looks like marble already. You want to make some more of them, a little bit more pronounced. Put a tiny bit more white in there because I want them to be grey, not black. And just use small amounts of this to build up your colours, rather than you'll end up with too much pigment and not enough gilt. So I'm going to do that there. Now I'm going to use this for my lines. A bit of blue if I wanted to, a bit of yellow. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to rub my feather into them colours there. And I'm not going to go crazy, I'm not going to go like that all over. I'm just going to pick out some areas where I think I want the vein to stand out. So over this area where it's a little bit yellow, I'm just going to go like that and create a bit of a vein. Alright, that's enough. I don't need to do stripes, because veins in marble do not always carry on. Yeah, they stop and start. So you don't need to. Make sure it's in stripes. So this one here, see I'm putting very little on, just making that stand out a little bit more. Or you can try your sandwriting brush. Again, just pick out a twizzle like that. So that's quite dark, that one. Keep it quite vague. And then I'm going to soften this again. I'm just going to soften these. So they've just made them areas pop. You've got the background, you've got the foreground. You just make them stand out a little bit more. Every bit I do, every time I do this demo, it's different. It's never the same. Your marble's not going to look the same as the person next to you. Everybody's got different techniques, and every time you do a piece, it'll look different. So I can leave it like that as well. But one thing I like to do is I like to get my lint-free cloth, which is there. And I think, well, if it's the piece of pure marble, it'll be very white. So if I think I've got a really dark bit, just go down with the top of your finger on this rag. Just take out some areas of this and just expose a little bit of the white at the back. Yeah, and that just finishes it off, really. And basically that is it. That is how you create a piece of Carrera marble.